Well, Chelsea, I think we did it.
Yeah, hello
I'm
and
a
welcome.
little in shock still. This is the immediate post-workout recap.
Yeah, we made poor choices.
I went with a new strategy tonight. I said, let's go to altitude for 6 days.
Yeah.
And then fly back and 2 to 3 hours later do the workout, thinking my blood was going to help me be a better performer. I think it had the opposite effect.
I'm no scientist, but from what I remember in my biology days, I think it takes a few extra days for that oxygen to build up in the bloodstream. Sorry.
Well, this was a nice 20-minute workout to work out
It was terrible.
whatever was going on in the system. So what was the workout? What did we just do?
We did 23.2 A and B.
And B.
A was a vomit-inducing shuttle run, burpee pull-up combo. And then B was a max thruster, and I really thought that bar was going to land on my chest and I was going to throw up everywhere. I'm not even kidding. Like, maybe the sushi earlier today wasn't a great idea. As I was eating, I was like, I probably shouldn't eat this much, but it happened anyways.
I had a chance to watch a couple of recap videos to see maybe some strategy, things like that. And I was like, all right, after the 15-minute workout's done, maybe give myself 90 seconds or so.
Yeah.
I sat on the box for a solid 2 minutes before I even stood up and thought about touching the bar.
Yeah, I was concerned.
But let's go back maybe to the beginning here. So 15-minute workout, 2 movements that there's not a lot to them other than just to keep moving. So what was your strategy or thoughts going into this one?
Well, I said before we started, I was like, this isn't my favorite because I don't have too much of a strategy, because we do these movements, but not in this couplet form. So you really don't know what 15 minutes of it is going to do to you. You know what like a partner style workout will do, or like, a few shuttles here and there, but like to do it for that long is not fun, and a little bit the world of the unknown. Yeah,
I think for me, the strategy that I tried to hold on to was just focus on the technique of like, what are my feet doing on the burpee pull-ups? What are my feet doing on the shuttle runs? But you get to a point where you're so fatigued that even the idea of trying to hold efficient, consistent footsteps kind of goes out the window. And I noticed that for me about 5 minutes in. I was the first couple minutes, I was like, all right, this is a great pace, feeling pretty good about the technique. And then you realize only 5 minutes has gone by and you're like, oh, wow, we still have 10 more minutes of this. And that's when things, I don't want to say fell apart, but they just slowed down considerably for me.
For sure. I caught back up to you.
Yes.
Because I lost like 3 reps to you right out the gate. Like my first few pull-ups, my feet were all over the place. I couldn't stay under the bar. I couldn't quite figure out why that was happening. Somehow I fixed it. I'm not sure how. But my feet were swinging forward, so when I was coming down, I was having to take more steps back. Yeah. And so that was just taking more time.
What was your strategy for the pull-ups? I think you went with the jump kind of half pull.
Yeah,
approach.
Thankfully, I got a good height bar back here, which was super helpful. But it was really jump as high as I could and pull as little as I needed to.
Do you feel like that had an impact later on? I don't know that it did for me. I felt like the jumping was fine. I didn't feel like my feet or my calves really went. It was more of a lungs workout for me.
It's all like your lungs are in your throat. Yeah. For me, I tried to open up my stride a little bit on the run, actually, so that I wasn't shuffling so much, like taking short steps. I tried to take some bigger steps within like my stride so that my hip flexors weren't dying the whole time. Yeah. So that really like allowed me to kind of open up a little bit and not feel like I was just constantly in this bent position. So that was helpful.
I noticed on the burpees, I was doing the step back, step up technique, and I was trying to be thoughtful of like stepping back with opposite feet, because I noticed pretty early on I kept stepping back and stepping up with the same side. And that side was starting to get fatigued on me. So I was like, hey, same thing with the shuttle runs. Try and face the same way. So I was trying to mix it up so I wasn't bending over with the same hand, the same side every time. Maybe it saves you a little bit. But looking back on that 15-minute part, is there anything you would change, do differently? How would you attack it having gone through it now?
I'd like to say that, like, maybe if I didn't go as hard, I would have recovered. But it's, that double-edged sword of, like, you lose reps on the front end to gain a little weight on the back end. But, like,
I thought the same. I felt like I was able to get some reps under my belt. Yeah. And you just kind of hang on. I don't find myself to be the person who, if I start slower, that I maintain. Like, it's going to fall off either way. Yeah. So sometimes building a few reps in the bank, and then when it falls off, you've at least got a few under your belt that can be helpful. So then we transitioned from that 15-minute workout, and I would say the last couple minutes, when you have somebody that you're racing against, it certainly pushes you. For sure, I think we pushed hard at the end, and that led to some challenges getting ready for the thruster, at least for me. Yeah. What was your approach, whether it was like warming up how many attempts did you feel like you wanted to do? What was going on in your head?
So I had a goal I wanted to hit like in the 150, 55, 60 range. And I snuck these 2.5s on the inside of my bar to hopefully kind of push me a little bit further, kind of sneak it in. But I made a big jump at the end, and I went 120, 130, and then I went straight to 160.
Yeah.
And I should have stopped at 150 first because I went back down to 150, hit it. And I think if I had done that before the 160, I maybe could have gotten the 160, but I don't know. The 160 only went about halfway up.
Somebody turned gravity off for a few seconds because you held 160 for probably a 2 count here.
I thought I could fight it.
I thought it was going. I thought it was going overhead.
But this one side got out. The elbow got out too far to be able to press anymore. So it was just like,
I would say the one plus side is all the reps look good, though. There was no walking, rebending, or any questionable marks.
I really tried to keep
around the thrusters.
Everything. I did come up onto my toes, but then I would just kind of come down onto my heels and like settle it first. But you made a smart choice and went down before you built up to a certain weight. Didn't you come down a little bit first, or did you add more?
I realized when I had spent 2 minutes changing shoes, recovering, thinking about life, that I was like, I'm not going to have as many attempts as I'd like. So in my head, I said, you've got 3 shots at this thing. Okay. So I've typically been okay with bigger jumps. Like once I get the feeling of the first weight, I'm like, okay, I know it's there. I know what it feels like. So in my head, I wanted to get something over 235. So I went 205. We threw some 15s on. I went 235. And then I had about minute 15 or so left. So let's put the 5 and 2.5 on. So we got to 250. It went overhead. Looking back, maybe you could squeeze a little bit more out of there. I don't know. I was really happy with that. It felt pretty good, but yeah, I like less attempts, more rest between them, and knowing that like you are going to be incredibly effortful when you try that attempt and not waste any energy there. So I was really happy with that. I think people will be surprised at how fast they'll recover. I think you think you're going to be dead. You're not going to be able to lift. Based on the way we train in CrossFit, people recover pretty quickly. If you give yourself even 2 minutes, you'll be surprised how strong you're going to feel going to that bar to pick it up and trusting that you can drive out of the bottom with it. Yeah,
the clean felt much better than I thought it was going to. It was the press that got me.
Yeah.
Like because I haven't really been cleaning that much weight. We've been doing a lot of power.
Yeah.
And so when I cleaned it, I was like, oh, that actually went up and stood up faster than I thought it was. And then it like traveled past my forehead and stopped moving. So that wasn't great.
And I would say, my thoughts on the thruster, I'm a primarily squat dominant athlete. So getting as much energy out of the bottom as you can. So really feeling like you're in a strong, solid position, which means when you're receiving the bar, you don't want to beat it to the bottom and let it crash. You ideally like to get that bar on the shoulders and you are guiding it down. So when you hit the bottom, it is an aggressive change of direction and you're going to use all that leg drive you can because like you said, I think your shoulders are going to be a little fatigued from how much push-ups and pulling. So using your legs as much as you can to drive that bar up can be a really helpful cue to try and throw some weight overhead, I think, for the thruster. Yeah, and if you use knee sleeves, like when you squat or do thrusters, don't wear them for the first part, but like keep them around your ankles. I'm a big fan of knee wraps, so I had those like sitting ready to go, and so my recovery was just wrapping my legs real quick and making sure I was ready because like I do think that your joints are a little looser than you'd like them to be once you start doing the squats and stuff, and it doesn't feel great. Yeah, I'd say my final thought is, and I saw a really good cue and tip from this is, if you like lifters or some sort of a heel lift, definitely leverage that to your advantage because when you're in that squat, if you're hinged forward and your butt's up, it's really hard to drive out of this position. But if you can get here with that lift, it's a much better position to drive up. So I would take the time, put some heel lifts, put your lifters on, gets you in a really great front squat position to drive vertically versus having your hips up. You lose a lot of that power out the front. So just something else to think about. Have lifters, have a belt, have knee sleeves handy. You'll take advantage of that transition time, put them on. You'll feel really good for that lift. Yeah, they should start making lifters with only Velcro for CrossFit specifically. So you can just hop in there, swip swap, ready to go. And I imagine if you bought the new Legacy Lifter 3s with the pump, that probably gives you a nice little extra action there. Yeah, but that's like another minute of pumping up your shoes before you can get started. You're wasting all the time. That's right. Well, 23.2 A and B in the books. Yeah. We've got 3 scores on the leaderboard. Any thoughts about just the programming so far? We're over 2/3 of the way now through the Open. What have you thought about the first 2 tests from Adrian Bosman? They're not my favorite.
I'm just gonna be honest. They're long.
They are.
And but I mean, they're good. Obviously, I mean, we're working hard, and the cool part is the simplicity of them and how that simplicity is going to separate people and really show differences in training and who's really trying to do something and who's not. But either way, you're gonna get in a really good workout.
Yeah, I thought that 23.2 felt more like a first workout of the open of like, let's introduce some people to some shuttle runs, some burpee pull-ups. So giving it to us in the second week after putting us in the deep end with a variety of movements, it is just, there's not a lot of places to hide in it. So I think that's really great for any skill level, any fitness level. They have been some good tests. They have been pushing the higher end of the typical dime domains I think we're used to, 14 and now 15 minutes. Still love the premise of you have to earn your barbell. So if you're going to lift heavy, you've got to earn it by demonstrating a little bit of cardio first. So I'm a big fan of that. I've enjoyed them so far, but I can't say that they've made me feel very fit at the same time, which maybe that's the point of the open. So, so we've got one more to go. Good luck with 23.2 A and B. Let us know how it goes. Have a lot of fun with this one, and we'll catch you for 23.3.
Bye.